Holy sequel, Batman! This thing is actually happening. The Batman came out in 2022. 3 hours long, detective noir set in a rain-soaked Gotham that felt less like a superhero movie and much more like a serial killer thriller with a guy who just happened to be wearing a bat suit. Critics loved it, I loved it, audiences loved it. It made more than $770 million worldwide, and Robert Pattinson went from the Twilight guy to one of the most compelling Batmen that we've ever seen on screen. And then, we waited. 4 years of near silence, a writer's strike, delays on top of delays, the kind of extended production limbo that has historically meant one thing in the superhero genre, a quiet cancellation that nobody wants to officially announce until they absolutely have to. But alas, we have movement. And if you've been paying attention, the update we got from Pattinson himself tells us a whole lot more than it might seem to be on the surface. Not only about when this movie's happening, but about what kind of movie it's actually going to be. So let's get into it. So here's what Pattinson actually said. He was recently asked about the Batman Part 2, and his answer was genuinely exciting for a couple of different reasons. He said that he'd be wrapping up his current press tour for the drama in about a week, and then said, quote, "I'll immediately start doing Batman stuff," end quote. I, for one, would like to know what Batman stuff is, but we'll leave that to another video. And then almost as a side note, he added that the new script is, quote, so good, and that he's very excited about it. Now, on the surface, that sounds like standard promotional enthusiasm that any of us would have. Every actor says their next movie's gonna be great, right? It's just how the business works. But here's why Pattinson's comments deserve to actually be taken seriously and why they carry more weight than your average hype statement. Robert Pattinson has a well-documented history of being openly critical about projects that he's been involved with. He spent years doing interviews where he talked pretty candidly about his complicated relationship with the Twilight franchise, and he wasn't shy about pointing out what he felt didn't work, what he found frustrating, and what he would have done differently.
I don't know, could have been better.
Not a guy here that we're talking about who performs enthusiasm he doesn't feel just to sell a ticket. And when he says the script is so good, that phrase is doing a lot of work, right? It's a genuine endorsement from someone who's proven he's capable of not giving one. And on the timeline side of things, this update's equally significant because the Batman Part 2 has an official release date of October 2027. And prior reporting had suggested filming would begin around May of this year, but his comments suggest he's going to start prep work essentially right now, potentially pushing that start date up by maybe a full month. And in film production terms, a month of extra runway matters quite a bit because that means you have more time to get things shot right, you have more time in post-production, there's more cushion if anything needs to go back and be fixed. And it makes the October 2027 date feel genuinely locked in rather than aspirational. So we know the movie's really happening this time, right? We know Pattinson thinks the script is exceptional. We know the cast is stacked. Jeffrey Wright's back as Commissioner Gordon. Andy Serkis is returning as Alfred. Colin Farrell reprising his Emmy Award-winning role as the Penguin. And then you got the new additions. Sebastian Stan as Harvey Dent, Scarlett Johansson as Gilda Dent. That last casting detail is the one that really opens up the conversation about what this story might actually be, and we've talked about this a lot here on the ScreenRant channel, but I want to recap some of it because when you look at Harvey and you look at Gilda as a duo, and you think about where Matt Reeves has been steering this version of Gotham, there's one storyline from the comics that keeps coming back to mind: the Long Halloween, and specifically the Holiday Killer arc at the center of it. Now, for anyone who hasn't read it, The Long Halloween is a 13-issue murder mystery by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and it's one of the most influential Batman stories ever put on paper. The basic premise is as such: someone is killing members of Gotham's mafia on the holidays. One murder per holiday over the course of an entire year. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, so forth. The killer is dubbed Holiday, and figuring out who Holiday is becomes the central mystery threading through the entire story. And right at the heart of that mystery are Harvey and Gilda. Harvey Dent in The Long Halloween is the Gotham District Attorney, Bruce Wayne's ally in trying to bring down Carmine Falcone's crime family through legal means. He's a good man who believes in the system, and the story is fundamentally about watching that belief get destroyed piece by piece until Harvey eventually becomes Two-Face. What makes the story genuinely haunting is Gilda, because there's a reading of The Long Halloween, one the comic itself supports, that Gilda is the holiday killer. That she's been killing mob figures one by one to protect her husband, to clear a path for him, to give him a Gotham where the law can actually win. She does it out of love, and the tragedy is that Harvey never knows, and the damage done to him happens anyway. Now look at where the Batman already lives tonally. Matt Reeves' Gotham is a city drowning in corruption and institutionalized rot. The first film was essentially a story about Bruce Wayne learning that Gotham's founding myths are all lies and that the very system meant to protect people is what's destroying them. That feels a lot like the world that The Long Halloween inhabits. It feels like it could fit like a glove, and the character dynamics map almost perfectly onto what we know about the sequel's cast. You have Batman as the detective. He's already defining characteristic of Pattinson's version of the character, at least, right? You have Commissioner Gordon as the ally, you have the Penguin, who in The Long Halloween's a key player in the criminal underworld, and that tracks perfectly given where we left Oz Cobb at the end of the spin-off series. And then you have Harvey Dent, a good man whose transformation into Two-Face becomes one of the most emotionally devastating arcs in all of comics, quite frankly. The addition of Gilda as a named character played by someone as high profile as Johansson is the detail that really suggests Reeves is gonna dive deep into the source material, because Gilda isn't a character who shows up in most Batman adaptations. She's actually fairly obscure outside of readers who specifically know this particular run. So casting her with that level of star power means she is probably a lot more than a cameo. She's central to the plot, and if she's central, then the Holiday Killer's story is almost certainly the backbone of what Reeves has constructed here. So think about what that does for the emotional weight of this sequel. The first Batman was about Bruce confronting the darkness in Gotham's past. This one could be about him confronting Gotham's present, and specifically about watching someone he trusts, someone who represents everything Bruce wants to believe about justice, get consumed by the city anyway. Harvey Dent's fall to Two-Face is far bigger than a villain origin story. In The Long Halloween, it's a tragedy about what Gotham can do to good people, and I think that is probably exactly the kind of story that this version of Batman should be telling. And if Pattinson is saying that that script is genuinely exceptional, then it suggests Reeves and his co-writer have found a way to make that tragedy land with real emotional force rather than checking boxes with familiar arcs that we saw in other films. And there's also rumors that we will see the Riddler and Joker return in some capacity for this film, suggesting that Reeves will continue to build on the world that he has propped up through the Batman and the Penguin series to give even larger context to the battle that Bruce Dent and Gordon face. Harvey's father, Christopher, is also expected to be in the movie, though that role has not been cast as of this video's recording. And there's also the question of what Two-Face means for this universe going forward. If Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face in the Batman Part 2, then that's probably not just a story beat for this one movie. That's the permanent fracturing of Bruce Wayne's closest ally in Gotham's very legitimate power structure. It closes off a version of hope that the first film at least left open at the end, and it raises the question of what Gilda does with the knowledge of what her love cost her husband. That's really painful. I think that's complicated and layered, and it can be really great for a sequel. As you can recall, though, I covered this topic at length here on ScreenRant just a few months ago, and I actually think it may be possible we don't see Harvey devolve into the Two-Face character in this movie. Instead, the seeds will be planted for that, and we'll get a glimpse of how far he's willing to go to accomplish what he wants to. Regardless of what happens, I'm really looking forward to this one. The wait has been long, and the silence at times has been frustrating, but everything pointing towards the Batman Part 2 right now, with the filming timeline and this great cast, and the genuine enthusiasm coming from the lead apparently, suggests that patience will be rewarded in a real way. And I know October 2027 feels like it can be a long way away, but anticipation like this makes that time go a little quicker, doesn't it? If the script really is as good as what Pattinson's saying, then this might end up being the rare superhero sequel that challenges the original. How excited are you for this film? Let me know in the comments below.